Welcome to an EchoTales production, where ordinary places hold extraordinary secrets. And every story invites you to listen a little closer. Settle in, dim the lights if you'd like, and open your mind to the unexpected. Let's begin with tonight's tale.
You heard that voice. You heard it! You know who that was, don't you?
Our story begins in a place meant for peace, a church, worn gently by decades of hymns, whispered prayers, and a soft rustle of choir robes. A place where voices rise, not for themselves, but for something greater. Tonight's story is about desire and envy, the kind that festers and whispers, attracting things that should never hear their name spoken. Listen closely, because in this choir, one voice doesn't belong, and one wish is about to cost someone her soul. The sanctuary is warm tonight, lamps glowing golden, rows of polished pews waiting quietly for Sunday morning. To most people, church is a place of comfort, familiar, safe, a place where the only thing expected are bowed heads and opened hearts. But behind the hymns and handshakes, there's a different story unfolding. One the congregation doesn't see. One that begins with a single, simple truth. Not everyone who sings in a choir feels holy. For some, the music is worship. For others, it's survival. And for one young woman named Crystal, it's something much darker. Crystal came here for a fresh start, a new church, a new choir, and a new version of herself. But old habits don't disappear just because the view changes from the pews. Crystal carries a secret stitched into her smile, a secret shaped like envy and sharpened by loss. And when a new voice joins the choir, a voice too perfect to be ordinary, something begins to shift, something subtle, something that feels like the sanctuary itself is holding its breath. Because in this church, someone is listening, someone who knows exactly what Crystal wants, and exactly how to give it to her. But every blessing has a price, and some voices are destined never to rise again. We'll return shortly with Act 1. On an ordinary day, in an ordinary church, the sanctuary is half lit, the pews mostly empty, and the choir is gathered near the front, clustered around the pulpit. It isn't Sunday, but it feels like it. Music books are open, water bottles line the front row, and a nervous kind of excitement hangs in the air. Tonight, one girl has the spotlight. Maya stands at the microphone with fingers laced tight around the stand. She's small, but her presence isn't. The last note of her solo still lingered in the room, floating somewhere between the ceiling beams and the stained glass windows. For a moment, there is silence. Then the applause comes. Hands clap together, chairs scrape, and a few whistles break out from the back of the group. The choir director beams.
Beautiful, Maya. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Crystal's lips curved into a polite smile. She knew exactly what it felt like to stand where Maya was standing, to be the one everyone notices, to have eyes on her, praising her, and reaching for her shoulders. But she also knew what it felt like to lose it, to have it ripped away by twisted metal and glass. Crystal swallowed hard and stepped forward, slipping into the circle of congratulations like she belonged there. But she knew as surely as she knew the harmony lines printed in her folder that if gifts were handed out by measure of purity, Maya would deserve every beam of praise. As for Crystal, she wasn't so sure about herself. Not anymore.
You sounded amazing, Maya.
Thanks, Crystal. That means a lot. I was so nervous my legs were shaking.
Her tone is friendly and supportive, but there's resentment wrapped in admiration. This should be her. The choir director clapped his hands to get everyone's attention.
All right, everyone, great job tonight. We'll run the full set again on Thursday, same time.
Crystal came to this church for a fresh start. She told her parents it was about finding a community. What she didn't say was that she was running from a past wrapped around a steering wheel and a secret that didn't die the night her best friend did. 2 years ago, Crystal was involved in a car accident that took her best friend's life. She saw the truck barreling toward them and jerked the wheel. The tires squealed loudly against the wet asphalt as the headlights split the night. She angled the car so the passenger side would bear the brunt of the impact, bracing herself for the crash. Her world erupted in a cacophony of shattered glass and twisted metal. But she smiled through the taste of blood in her mouth, because for the first time since childhood, the secret she carried like a weight dissolved in that violent moment. The constant sense of never being good enough after her best friend died was gone, replaced by unexpected relief. She thought a different place with different faces and different songs was a chance to be anyone other than the young woman who caused a crash and walked away. But envy travels well. It doesn't need luggage. It slips quietly into every room, uninvited. As Crystal watched Maya glow, she felt that old, familiar hunger rise again. The same thought she's had 1,000 times. The thought she never said out loud until now.
I want her life. I want to be her.
Someone called Maya's name from the hallway. Her mother, offering a ride home. Maya hugged the others and headed toward the exit. She glanced back at Crystal and waved goodbye. Maya disappeared down the hall. The sanctuary emptied quickly after that. A few stragglers talked in low voices near the back. The choir director switched off the main lights, leaving only the soft glow of the altar lamps and the red sanctuary candle burning near the front. Soon, it was just Crystal and the silence. The quiet hum of the building settled around her. The faint buzz of the exit sign, the low groan of the wooden beams adjusted to the night air. For a few seconds, she let herself feel it, the longing. Crystal doesn't want to sing like Maya. She wants to be Maya. She wants the adulation, the softness, the kindness, and the effortless way people lean toward Maya. She wants a life not stained by her past. She wants a different life and a desire that strong doesn't just sit quietly in the dark. It pushes, it reaches, and it calls. Crystal picked up her bag and turned to leave, then suddenly stopped, hearing a single note hang in the air. It was soft and distant, too pure to be a draft slipping under the door, too clear to be an old building settling. Just one note held for a heartbeat. Then it was gone. She turned slowly toward the doors, eyes scanning the shadows.
Hello?
No one answered. The room was empty. But as she stepped out into the hallway, the hairs on her arms rose. It felt like someone was listening. The night air was cool. Crystal paused at the top of the church steps. She didn't notice the figure watching from across the street. Just a shape, casually standing under the shadow of a tree, hands in pockets with face turned toward the church door. The street lamp above him flickered once, twice, then steadied. Had Crystal noticed, she might have assumed the street lamp was faulty, finding nothing odd about a man making his way past the church at night. But she didn't notice. She fished in her bag for her keys, and by the time she reached her car, the sidewalk across the street was empty. When Crystal looks back on this night, she won't remember the way the street lamp flickered. She'll remember just two things. Maya, glowing in the center of that choir, and the strange, perfect note that seemed to come out of nowhere. She won't know it then, but that was the moment the balance shifted. That was the moment her envious desire stopped being private and became an invitation that was accepted. We'll return shortly with Act 2. Thursday night arrived with the same warm glow inside the sanctuary, the same weathered hymnals stacked neatly by the door, and the same faint smell of wood polish and fading incense. But something was different. A new voice drifted through the hallway before the choir gathered. It was smooth, low, and almost too polished. It slid along the walls like silk and settled over the room before anyone could pinpoint where it came from. Crystal heard it as she walked in. A single melody, clean, warm, and unnervingly perfect. She stopped inside the doorway, her breath catching in her throat. It was the same note she heard at the end of last rehearsal, the same impossible clarity, the same pull. Around her, choir members leaned toward one another. Their whispers barely rose above the settling hush. She caught fragments of the excitement and curiosity, all of it circling around the new guy, Adrian. Crystal's fingers tightened around her folder. The choir director stepped forward, smiling awkwardly, as if he didn't quite know how to introduce the man standing beside him. Adrian looked like he belonged in a painting. Sharp features, dark curls brushing his forehead, eyes too calm for a stranger in a church. He gave the room a small, polite smile. But somehow, it felt like he was smiling directly at Crystal. Maya beamed and stepped forward, welcoming him to the church. Adrian nodded, but his eyes glanced toward Crystal again. Subtle, yet intentional. It was as if he confirmed something he already knew. Crystal felt heat crawl up her neck. Rehearsal began, and from the first note, the room changed. When Adrian sang, the choir unconsciously adjusted around him. Breaths synced, harmonies leaned, and the entire group shifted closer to his tone, like metal bending toward a hidden magnet. Even the old organ pipes seemed to hush themselves, as if allowing his voice to move through the room unchallenged. Maya stood beside him and tried to match his phrasing. She's good. She was always good. But next to him, her voice sounded smaller. Crystal noticed immediately, and for the first time, Maya didn't shine, and Crystal felt a dark, guilty thrill climb up her spine. She found herself breathing a little easier. The choir director stopped mid-measure.
Wow, Adrian, that was beautiful. I'd love to hear a solo from you sometime.
Rehearsals continued, and each rehearsal became a performance, each song a spell. Adrian's presence curled deeper into the room, gentle but insistent. His voice glided through the sanctuary like smoke, golden, warm, and hypnotic. Every note seemed tailored to the ear of whoever listened, promising comfort, understanding, and admiration. The choir's harmonies shifted around his melody with their collective sound. Even the walls seemed to vibrate with his pitch. Maya struggled to adjust, and by the end of the final song, her voice cracked on a high note. A tiny mistake, barely noticeable, but the first one she'd made in months.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Adrian's gaze slid toward Crystal once more, and this time she didn't look away. Thursday night dawned with a soft drizzle. Inside, warm lights glowed above polished pews, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the faint sweetness of hymn book paper. It should have felt peaceful, but to Crystal, it was claustrophobic, because tonight, Maya performed her solo. Maya stood near the front, composed in her long dress. The soft rustle of fabric followed her every move, and as she tucked a stray curl behind her ear, a delicate trace of her perfume mingled in the air. The organ hummed a gentle prelude, and then Maya stepped forward. She breathed in, poised and radiant. Her voice was lovely, soft, clear, and warm. It drifted through the sanctuary, filling the pews with comfort. Crystal's jaw clenched. Maya was brilliant. She always had been. But then, about halfway through the hymn, Maya inhaled for the next phrase, and her voice cracked. Maya steadied herself, but her voice cracked again. And this time, she stopped singing entirely. Her hands flew to her throat. Panic widened in her eyes. The choir stopped.
Are you all right?
I don't know. Something's wrong. It feels tight.
Crystal felt a spark ignite inside her ribs. Adrian watched Maya's trembling hands. Then he glanced at Crystal, who understood something in that instant. Maya's unraveling wasn't random, and Adrian wanted her to witness it. When rehearsal ended, Maya left early, shaken. Crystal gathered her things and stepped out into the night air. She expected Adrian to follow, but he was already there, standing beneath a street lamp with his hands in his pockets, looking toward the sky as if listening to something only he could hear. Crystal approached slowly.
What's happening to Maya? Why is she struggling to breathe every time she sings?
You already know why.
No, I don't.
Then let me say it plainly. She is losing what you want.
What I want? I didn't do anything to her.
You didn't have to. You wished it.
I never wished for her to get hurt.
You wished for her life, her voice, and her glow. You want to take her place and be what she is without the effort.
Who are you?
I go by many names, and your heart called out with envy, and I came because you want something that only I can give.
Which is what?
Maya's light, her purity, and her voice. You want to be seen the way she is seen, loved the way she is loved, and praised the way she is praised. You want to become her.
And what do you get?
I want you to sing for me in eternity, where your voice will echo in places no light ever reaches. A perfect offering.
No, I can't give up my life.
Who said it had to be yours? I only require a soul.
Who would take my place?
An innocent and devout church girl who is soft-spoken with glowing faith. She bakes cookies for the choir.
Maya? You'd take her instead? What will happen to her?
She'll make beautiful music in my choir until the stars burn out.
Do I have a choice?
You always have a choice.
What happens if I don't decide?
Oh, Crystal, the choice was sealed the moment you approached me. You now have 2 days to decide whether you enter eternity alone or whether Maya sings in your place.
As Crystal watched him walk away, humming the hymn they just sang, something unsettling curled at the base of her spine. And when he hit that final note, for half a second, she could have sworn she heard someone whispering through it, calling her name. We'll return shortly with Act 3. A bargain has been placed on the table. The only question now is, how long will it take for Crystal to say the word that seals Maya's fate? Crystal stood at the crossroads now, envy coiled on one side and innocence on the other. Maya's fate hung between them. The air inside the church felt different, heavier and quiet in a way that didn't feel like peace, but pressure. Crystal arrived early and sat in the front pew, setting her folder beside her. Maya entered shortly after, shoulders rounded, hair disheveled as if she didn't sleep.
Maya, are you okay?
Maya shook her head and tried to speak, but her voice was gone. Her unraveling was no longer subtle. It crept into her posture and the fragile way she carried herself. As Maya walked away, the sanctuary lights flickered twice. Adrian filled the room like fog, shapeless and impossible to grasp. His footsteps made no sound. His shadow stretched farther than the light should allow. And on this morning, he stood at the edge of the choir loft, looking down at Crystal. She hesitated. Her fingers twisted nervously in her lap, but eventually nodded her head and lowered her eyes in uncertainty. The next morning, Crystal sat alone by the window of a small coffee shop, her hands curled around a steaming mug that had stopped warming her. Outside, cars rolled past and pedestrians chatted in clusters. She tried to focus on the world moving normally around her. Anything to quiet the memory of Maya's trembling hands, her fading voice, and the way the sanctuary lights flickered when she walked away. But the unease stayed with her, heavy and sour, pooling in the pit of her stomach. Then it happened. A gasp from the table behind her. It was loud enough to cut through the murmur of the cafe and make Crystal's fingers stiffen against her mug. 2 women sat just a few feet away, shaking their heads in disbelief. A young girl died in a car accident the night before. The car hit a divider. It was instant. No suffering and no time to save her. One woman mentioned seeing her at church just last week, always helping, always smiling. Maya, she murmured. I think her name was Maya. We'll return shortly with our final thoughts. People like to believe that darkness comes only for the wicked, yet even the sweetest gifts demand a price, and it isn't always paid by the one who receives them. It's comforting, isn't it? The belief that innocence is a shield, purity is protection, and whatever waits in the quiet chooses its prey by merit alone. Maya vanished from the world without warning, slipping between one heartbeat and the next. Is she singing now in some endless choir beyond hearing, her voice woven into a melody that never stops? And Crystal? Well, her voice has never shined so brightly, so warm, so impossibly steady for someone carrying so many ghosts. Perhaps she's finally filled that hollow space inside her. Or perhaps something else has taken residence there. In the end, the truth is simple. Some voices rise, others are taken. And in this choir, no one sings alone. This has been an EchoTales production. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's story. Join us again for more intriguing tales from the shadows and the spaces in between. There are more mysteries waiting just beyond the quiet. Until next time, keep your eyes open.